Hello and welcome to Greywood Gardening. I am here in the seed starting layer with my intrepid assistant, Little Greywood, and it is the middle of February here in Zone 4, Minnesota, and that means it is bitterly cold outside and everything is covered with snow and constantly getting more snow. And now is actually the first seeds I'm going to sow for the year, and I'm doing it kind of at the last second because I'm going to be doing some winter sowing. Do you know what winter sowing is? Should I explain it? Winter sowing is just planting seeds in a container that acts as a mini greenhouse and then tossing it outside in the middle of the winter and letting it freeze and thaw and letting the seeds sprout when the conditions are right. So very commonly winter sowing is done in a milk bottle, or in this case a plastic water bottle, with the cap off. The big advantage of winter sowing is you can winter sow a lot of different seeds. You can winter sow your zinnia or your Johnny Jump Ups or whatever, but the real advantage is sowing seeds that need stratification, which means that they need a period of being wet and freezing and then thawing and freezing and thawing before they're going to grow. And this is very, very common with a lot of flowers, particularly perennial flowers. Almost no vegetables need to worry about stratification. Artificially creating stratification in the fridge, which you can do. Oh, what is it? Go ahead. So what do you want to tell the camera?
I'm reading down winter toys to play in the snow, like making snow angels and making snowmen and making ghost wedding.
That is a great idea. So you're writing down all the things to do in the snow. And are you going to write down planting plants is one of the things you can do in the snow?
Yes.
All right. You can try to replicate stratification in your fridge or freezer. I've done it a few times and it's pretty tough. I get really poor germination. I can get plants, but it's kind of a pain in the butt. Whereas winter sowing is so easy because you just plant the stuff and then you forget about it, and then in the spring you have plants. So let's go through the process with a typical 1 gallon milk jug or water jug. So you need a container that is mostly enclosed, but not entirely. So these are perfect because you want this hole on the top for rain to get in and for heat if it gets too hot in the sun to escape. And you need something that is clear or translucent. Plants obviously need light. If it's solid, it won't do. So the first thing we need some drainage holes on the bottom. So I am going to drill, this is like a 1/2 inch bit. I think I'm going to just put 2 holes in here. So, one there, and one there.
Is it okay if I talk it down?
Oh, go ahead. What do you want to say?
I'm Daddy's helper to plant winter plants in the snow. And I just writing down plant stuff.
Oh, you're writing down plant stuff. You're taking really good notes. All right, so the first thing we're actually going to do is basically cut this jar in half. So I'm just going to use a razor blade. We're going to want like maybe 3 or 4 inches of soil in here and then a little bit of a lip to hold moisture. So something a little bit slightly below halfway point. And when we cut this around, you actually want to leave a little piece at the back that's not cut. If you cut it all the way off, it's okay. You can recover from that. Just makes life a little easier if you don't cut it all the way. So let's see. We'll cut it probably right about here. And this isn't rocket science. Close enough is close enough.
It's really hard.
Oh, it's getting a little floppy now. All right. So I've cut it most of the way, so now I've got a little hinge, which makes it easier to work with. So now, things are getting messy.
Yeah.
So now we need to put dirt in here. So I want to put maybe 4 inches of dirt or so.
It's okay if I talk to the camera.
Why, yeah, go ahead, talk. What have you got to say?
Wow. I was going to make next summer a plant, like basil, so we could smell it and eat it with food.
You're going to plant basil so we can smell it and eat it with food. That's a fantastic idea, honey. I love that.
To do it with you.
That's right, and you can do it with me. All right, so we are going to use potting soil for this. We don't want to use garden soil or compost. It gets too compacted. And we're just going to do...
Is it okay if I help you?
Yeah, do you want to pour this in? I'll set that down there. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. Okay. So we've got 3 or 4 inches. The next thing we want to do is water this super, super well. We want to get this so saturated that water is running out of the bottom. So let's get this watered really well. I think that's good. So in this one, I'm going to plant Pearly Everlasting. This is not the most attractive flower in the world, but it is a Minnesota native, and it's the host plant for the American Painted Lady Butterfly. One of the other tips with seeding for winter sowing is, unlike starting your vegetables, where you're putting each individual seed and spacing them out, you want to winter sow really, really densely. So a whole lot of plants, they'll come up in a bunch of clumps, and then in the spring, in May, when it comes time to plant, we'll take them out and kind of rip them apart into separate clumps. So in this case, we have a, oh my God, the seed looks like dust.
Oh my God.
You take a pinch, you're gonna sprinkle it in there. All right, this is
Not very working.
probably one of the smallest seeds I've ever seen. So I'm just gonna like spread this out in here.
Should can I tell the camera something?
Sure, what do you want to tell the camera?
Well, I'm making my own bottle, and maybe I can help Daddy sprinkle my own little seeds in there, and I can put, and you can put some in my hand.
I'm gonna put just the faintest, slightest layer of potting soil on top. I will water this one more time. Also very important is to label what it is. So I'm going to make a label on this slate. So we'll shove this in on the edge. Oop, hope that fits. That mostly fits. So now we're going to close it up, and we're going to grab some duct tape, and we're going to duct tape these sides together. So again, if you had actually accidentally cut all the way through and cut the top off, you can just duct tape it back on. It's just kind of a pain to do.
Can I do it?
Yes, when we do yours, I'll rip a piece for you, and you can wrap it around your bottle yourself.
I took my cap off already.
Oh, that's good, because it is important not to have the cap on here. You got to remember to take that off and keep it off. And I think what I might do is I'll try also labeling the duct tape. This is not an easy way. All right, everlasting. Not close enough. Okay, so this is done and ready to go outside, and we'll show you that in a little while, but we have a whole bunch more to do. Oh, and this is dripping through the bottom, which is exactly what we want. Are we doing yours next? Well, let's do a whole bunch next, okay?
Yeah, we're doing mine next.
I'm gonna cut the bottom, that's right. I forgot to put the holes in the bottom.
And pour my own dirt in. Cut it mud. Milkweed.
Milkweed. So we have a branch of common milkweed here that we grabbed from the cottage garden last fall.
These are the tiniest seeds I ever saw.
These are pretty big seeds, I think. Dirt over these to cover them.
It's mine.
But you make a very good point. I forgot to label it on the inside. Oh, that's nice. Let's set this over here.
With yours.
All right, now
I'll do another one.
want to do another one. All right, and these are the poppies. That is the last of them.
And these are the fuzz little things for cowbirds to eat, and I think this will grow, but I don't know. So maybe we can just make it grow inside with water.
Okay. So now we need to get these outside. It's worth noting that there is some, I was going to say luck, but there's some uncertainty about whether or not your winter sowing is going to germinate. My experiences have been really good. Basically everything I've ever winter sown has germinated and grown fine. I know other people who say like, yeah, 80 or 90% of their stuff germinates, but there's always one or two things that for whatever reason doesn't. So we'll see. I'm planning a much bigger variety of winter sowing things than I have in the past. So we'll see how all of them do. February is getting to like the end of the period that you can do winter sowing. I would say end of February is probably the latest. It really depends on the plants. If your plants don't require stratification, you can do winter sowing in April if you want it. Some plants only require like 30 days of stratification, and those ones you could probably winter sow in the middle of March, or even end of March, and be very safe. But if it requires 60 or more days of stratification, it starts to get a little edgy whether or not it's going to germinate if you don't get it out there until sometime in March. That said, we are getting freezing temperatures overnight, like up to at least May, and very often into May for a bit. So I guess you could get a couple of months of stratification even if you planted in March. All right, let's get these outside. Okay, so now all we have to do is toss these outside. Because we are in the height of winter and the snow is pretty deep, I'm actually going to shovel a little indent into the snow to set all of these things into. I don't need to get them down to ground level or anything. I just don't want them sitting up at the top where they can tip over, and I want them to get some of that snow around them, because that's what should have happened if I had done this earlier. All right. I'll actually cover them a little too. I will continue to follow the progress of these plants on this channel throughout the spring so you guys can see how everything grows, and we'll see how many plants we get this spring out of this super easy method of seed sowing. This is way easier than starting veggies. I'm just going to leave them here and I'm going to ignore them, other than try not to walk on top of them if they get covered with snow, until spring. Alright, well, if you have any questions for me, you can always leave a comment below or email me at brian@greywoodgardening.com. But until next time, happy gardening.
Well, the plants are right over there, over that bank of snow, and I just found them with my dad.